Blue Magnolias, Red Farlow Mysteries Number 2 by W.F. Ranew. Chapter 1. The storm raged. Rain fell hard. Thunder roared. Ahead of the rumbling, lightning flashed, giving a glow to bent weeds in the red clay ditch. The babbling stream of water and stones washed bare. Hank Cowboy Tillman, shot and bleeding in the gully, tried to move. Later, he remembered his efforts to crawl. Not because he could crawl. He could not. But if he managed somehow to do so, maybe that might get him out of his predicament, as if any movement could help on the remote stretch of rural road. Cowboy, shocked and muddled by his painful wound, recalled a foggy memory about a freakish July hurricane somebody mentioned in the bar last night. This must be the one. Rain pelted Hank's head. Muddy water flowed in a rivulet around his right ear. Georgia clay smudged part of his face and much of his clothing. His hat. Did I leave it at the bar? Oh yeah, some asshole knocked it off his head before plowing a fist into his gut. And my guitar? Shit. Worrisome as those quandaries ordained, memories of Nashville came to haunt Hank as rain drenched him down in the ditch. A similar night, he told Red Farlow later. He'd creased his Texas straw hat perfectly, grease spots stained it here, and there his 1951 Martin 0021 guitar, ragged, rugged, and chipped, with the rosewood split a few inches. Still, its glorious sound resonated in his memory. Priceless, both. These things he contemplated in nightmarish images as he kept his face above water. Then the shock of reality hit. Will I live, or am I dying? Any chance I can get out of this wet hellhole? Those two thugs in the bar. He heard people talking about the hurricane. It was right then the pair, one named Bugger, the other Swansea, accosted him. That led to the gunshot wound. Why'd they do it? Why'd they hurt me? Thinking about their assault on him and feeling the pain, Hank Tillman tried to cry, but no tears came. He desperately looked around the back of the bar for Red Farlow, but didn't see him. His protector, nowhere around. Now, here was Hank, soaked completely through his clothes, muddied to the core and hurting. He had to pee, so he went in his pants. Who would notice? Right then, he couldn't think anything mattered. Not playing, not singing, not making his next gig. His hat and guitar, the only things he could contemplate along with life itself, the important stuff. Will I play again? He passed out and dreamed an angel Hulk bent down and cradled his head. A shock of lightning lit up the familiar face. Thunder roared. Rain fell. 2 years previous, Cowboy walked into a seedy bar near the Alabama line. With his guitar case and gig bag in hand, he moved across the room. His boot toe hit a snag on the floor. Hank nearly tripped. He looked down at the cracked, uneven concrete littered with peanut shells and cigarette butts. He took in the acrid smoke from cigarettes, cheap cigars, and weed that filled the room. People coughed a lot as they puffed away. The older ones looked unhealthy. The younger ones not much better off. He went over to a corner where an amp stood and prepared his equipment. A waitress named Wanda strolled past. Hank asked her for a bottle of water. She dominated the place, a big soulless wench who cursed anything and often. She got into an argument with a millwright as Cowboy adjusted his mic and tuned the guitar for the first set. Wanda won. The mill worker left. He played to pipe fitters and other workers from a nearby paper mill, along with farm laborers, auto mechanics, and veterans. A lot of the male patrons had nothing else to do but shoot pool, drink a lot, and tease the three waitresses for a chance, slight as the odds may be, for a night in the sack with one of them. A few women patrons sat among the crowd drinking hard liquor or cheap wine or both. Hank belted out one of his best, his namesake's Hey Good Lookin'. He let it rip in a loud voice and heavy beat that elicited from the crowd romping and stomping, two-stepping, extravagant toe-tapping, and booming laughter. The locals loved it. Hell, everybody loved it. You couldn't help but like Hank. He smiled broadly and often, friendly in a wholly Southern way, which is why there was no easy way to explain what happened to lovable Hank Tillman. But it did happen. How could he offend anybody? Not easy if you knew him, but he did. Hank's story told a long and complicated tale for his number of years. A romance bitten with tragedy, his life's destiny crawling along like a rattlesnake on a hot July afternoon. Yet Hank himself smiled brightly. He always made most well-adjusted people feel good, whether he played in a honky-tonk or just walked while sipping iced tea on his mama's screened front porch in Norman Park, Georgia. He preferred the sweet tea rather than bourbon during periods of hoisting himself up on the wagon for another short ride. Besides, his mother wouldn't allow the hard drink in her house. Other times, liquor held on to Hank and wouldn't let go. He tried Alcoholics Anonymous once. Didn't take, couldn't take, probably never would. Hank's story evolves from a crossroads in his life. There, he encountered some people who wanted to destroy him. He also met Red Farlow, who happened to be in the audience the night in southwest Georgia. Farlow worked as a private investigator with a checkered past in law enforcement and a real badass attitude. But like Hank Tillman, Red was a pretty nice guy most of the time. Cowboy's story started in Nashville, Tennessee. If you asked Hank, he hoped it would end there one day. For his Music City debut, Hank Tillman stepped into a dim spotlight in a little-known but loud honky-tonk in Printer's Alley, up the street from Nashville's famous and raucous Broadway. A no-name band headlined the bill, and Cowboy opened for his one-night stand. Bars in most places have a fragrance of their own, generally not very pleasing. Along Nashville's Broadway runs a strip of restaurants, cowboy boot stores, guitar emphoria, and drinking establishments, most of which feature country music day and night. Odoriferous stale beer and whiskey spills, puke, and cigarette smoke wafted in the air. In the alley bar where Hank played, the odor assaulted patrons' nostrils as they approached the steps. Many went inside because the music was pretty decent. So good the place was packed, mostly because a duck caller's convention had descended on the city. Hank's nerves rattled him as he held a brew. The glass shook so much beer spilled onto his hand. But he collected himself with 3 swigs. It was important to make a good impression, even in the alley bar. He hoped by singing Country Roads, midway into the song, Cowboy heard a scraggly bearded drunk in bib overalls on the first row scream out, "Play me some Hank! Hank!" The man apparently considered his quip funny. He turned to the busty blonde next to him and giggled. She dangled a mug of beer in her left hand and smirked. Cowboy continued with the John Denver classic and tried to ignore the ill-behaved cur. He launched into Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, his favorite Willie Nelson song, and just when he started the finger-picking solo, the drunk erupted again, this time in anger. "Hey, you limp-dicked little piece of shit," the hillbilly said. "Get off Willie and play us some Hank." The blonde cackled at this and took a swig of her beer. Her flinty eyes daggered at Hank, even as she laughed. Cowboy went on with the song, scanning the back of the room for the manager or bouncer. No one came to his rescue. Okay, so this clown wants some Hank Williams. Finishing Willie's song, Cowboy paused a moment and belted out the beginning verse a cappella. He let the words hang there a few seconds of silence and started his upbeat, flat-picking intro to Honky Tonk Blues. The drunk seemed pacified with this. Cowboy finished it quickly and hit a few licks to move into one of his tunes with the chorus. "Stroke me here, rub me there, and stay with me all night long, sweet baby." Hank took a break, put his guitar into its rugged and scarred case next to a stool, turned off the mic, and got up to hit the head and have another beer. As he stepped off the stage, the drunk grabbed his arm. "Hey, man, you need to expend your, your your songs, man," the drunk said, slobbering on Cowboy. "Hell, man, you ain't worth shit." Cowboy pulled out of the drunk's grip and turned to leave. As a man, Hank could hold his own, but a natural-born fighter he never was. The drunk, still gripping his beer mug, pushed Cowboy hard on the back. The singer stumbled a few steps, turned, and took a swing at the guy, landing his right fist squarely in the man's face. The drunk staggered back. His beer erupted with a foamy lava cloud that splattered Hank and splashed onto the floor. Flailing wildly, the man came back and desperately tried to land a blow, but lost his balance and fell belly down on the floor. A crowd gathered round them. Magically, the manager and his bouncer appeared. Too late. The cops arrived and arrested Hank. The drunk got a trip to the hospital and received attention attention his nose didn't require, in Hank's opinion. Hank went to jail for 24 hours. His cousin bailed him out and got him a lawyer, who settled the case by paying a fine. Afterward, Cowboy headed back to Georgia. He left part of him behind in Printer's Alley, his battered hat and crumpled sheets of what might be a hit song. He remembered the song. The hat he lost forever.